Welcome to Catholic Family News, where I've just received word from Mary Rundis, my colleague on the ground, that white smoke has been seen from the Sistine. So he is in St. Peter's Square. We're hoping he's going to join us soon. He is there. I'm going to show you a live feed right now from Vatican Media. So the smoke has been seen, but we do not yet know who has been elected. Who has received and accepted the office of Pope. So these are some scenes here from live from St. Peter's. Hopefully we'll have Mary back or he'll be able to join us and give us his reaction. So what will happen next? The Pope, once he's accepted, the smoke is put up. He is then taken to a room of tears, where he is changed into a white cassock. Meanwhile, a cardinal will come out, will announce with the words Habemus Papam that we have a pope, and will give us the name of the cardinal as elected, and then his papal name. Then after that, shortly after that, we hope the Pope himself will appear on the balcony. You can see the reports from Rome are that people are streaming in to St. Peter's. Lots and lots of people there. We see the Swiss Guard. We see them assembling. This is a sign, I think, that we're getting close, that they've moved them into position. This obviously is something that has to be very well choreographed. They have been having to work on this for some time. We have a feeling they've been probably working on this from before Pope Francis even died. We know the Swiss Guard were working on that, and it really does need a lot of quick coordination because there really only been several days, and the conclave is barely 24 hours old. It was only about a day ago, just about 24 hours ago, that the cardinals entered, and we had that long wait. We think, again, there's been no official word, but it would seem that this is the fourth ballot, because there was one ballot last night that was black smoke. They were allowed to have two ballots this morning, and then black smoke issued this morning Rome time. The black smoke usually comes up only if there's been two failed ballots. And so that would mean this is likely the fourth, given the time of day. It is possibly the fifth ballot, but it's early enough in Rome. We're only, at about 6:30 Rome time, that it's probably that fourth ballot. There you hear the crowd, the excitement going on there, this great anticipation. It's really interesting watching this. I think just watching these images, that the media is fascinated with Catholicism. Um, they kind of hate it, but in moments like this, like they're all focused on it. And even the Italians, maybe have lost the faith since Vatican II, have lost practicing it, but still there's this attraction to the Pope, to what's happening, and again, seeing all these people flocking into St. Peter's Square, waiting for this announcement, is kind of a reminder the world almost can't live without the church. As much as the liberal modern world has been fighting against the Pope, fighting against the papacy, it can't help its fascination. So we're here. If you've just joined us, waiting, we're watching the Vatican Media live stream from St. Peter's. We're hoping to get Murray on. He's there at the Vatican with his phone. If he can join us, we'll get maybe his view from that. I actually have a text from him. He said the Wi-Fi is terrible with the amount of people there. It's kind of, I guess, getting overloaded. The amount of people, he's going to keep trying to get in. So as soon as he can get through, get a clear signal, he's going to join us. But we'll just watch from here, and then he can join us when he can. We'll try to give you our first reactions. There's a quiet coming over the square. Perhaps that's a sign that we're about to hear something. Some beautiful images provided by Vatican Media. I remember last time when Francis was elected, there was a little sign with the curtains there that you see moving around, the loggia opening up, giving people a sense it was about to happen. But I sense an anticipation that something's about to happen. Here we have Mary here. Can you hear us, Mary?
Hi, Brian. I don't know if you're able to hear me.
Yes, we can hear you. Are you able to hear us? Well, there he is. He is on the ground. As he told us by text, the Wi-Fi is getting overrun by everybody there.
We have a very interesting thing that happened here. Let's see. Are you able to hear me, Brian?
Yeah, we can hear you now. You just said there's an interesting thing. What's interesting? Nope. Mary? Well, something interesting happened, but we'll have to see what that is. The square's gotten a little louder again, it looks like, so maybe that anticipation's not actually there. They are broadcasting the view in the square on televisions in addition to the live feed that we are watching here. Well, we lost Murray, I think. He is trying to reestablish contact with us. So hopefully we'll get him back soon. But the sort of celebratory aspects come back. It got quiet for a little bit when the Swifts guards came in, but it seems to have returned to a little bit more of an exciting atmosphere. Well, I think we may have him back. You're back. Can you hear us?
Okay, yes. I mean, the Wi-Fi here is very spotty, Brian. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
We can hear you now. You told us something interesting happened. What happened?
Yes, it was. There was a delay for about 30 minutes after where we expected the white smoke to be. But indeed, we do have a pope. It was quite excitement here. Everybody was leaving, and then everybody had to rush to return. But indeed, we have a pope. As we see, there's people running all around trying to get closer to the pope. But indeed, we do have one. Who knows who will it be? Will it be one of those front-runner candidates? I think it's more likely now that this was a shorter conclave than we expected, but certainly we'll be watching to see.
So I don't know if you can see, we're watching the Vatican live feed from Vatican Media right now, the square. We've seen the Swiss Guards come in. We've seen marching bands, Italian regiments, really beautiful pageantry going on. I don't know, where are you? Can you maybe tell us people where you are in the square? Oh, we've lost him. Well, this may be what to be expected and kind of under the circumstances, but we will get him back hopefully shortly. As he said, if we had to make a prediction on the fourth ballot, it sounds like it was maybe one of the more front runners. It would have been more, if it were a later ballot, it would have been more likely they couldn't get a majority and they had to maybe look elsewhere. But who will that be? Will it be Cardinal Parolin? We tend to be negative on that. Don't think it's Cardinal Parolin. Very negative on Tagle. Really don't think that that's likely. Zuppi is still a possibility. Pizzaballa, the Italian, Cardinal Sarra, Cardinal Erdo. Again, some of the names we've been talking about. Again, it feels like it should be somebody fairly well known to garner a 2/3 vote so quickly. On the other hand, who knows? I mean, it is possible a dark horse came out of the box and people just wanting unity gravitated towards him. I mean, I do think coming out on the fourth ballot is suggesting there was a quick consensus that the college is behind him. So I think whoever the identity is going to tell us a lot more about what these cardinals thought about Pope Francis and what he did. As we've been reporting, there was a lot of subtle messaging of disappointment in the divisiveness of the Francis pontificate, calls for unity, for a pope to bring about a greater unity. Maybe what I'm going to do, I'm just going to text Murray. Maybe you can text me updates if you're not able to get back on, if you have any information, and I can read your texts out live on our live stream. All right, we'll see. We're making the best we can of all technology here. But it is even cell signals, data cell signals. I think he was trying to connect to a Wi-Fi network, but even the data signals are likely getting flooded with so many people wanting to broadcast this information. Well, if you're just joining us to our live stream, it is in the evening Rome time. It's about 6:40 Rome time. We saw white smoke appear in the Vatican within the past hour. It surprised everyone. Mary was just telling us before we lost him that it was late again. That they were expecting it earlier. It came late. People started leaving, assuming it was going to be black smoke again. They were caught off guard. People were running back. He said, right now there's kind of chaos with people running back to the square, and we are now awaiting the announcement of the name of the 267th successor of St. Peter, the Supreme Pontiff. And hopefully, whoever he may be, will come out as the Supreme Pontiff and not merely the Bishop of Rome, as Francis was wont to do. Hopefully, it will be someone. And one of the things I have to say, I was critical of the Benedict pontificate, as many of you know, that maybe it lulled people into a sense of false security. But I think one thing Benedict did do is he tried to bring back the respect that is owed to the Supreme Pontiff, not because of who he is personally, but because of the office he represents, bringing back out the ancient vestments, the proper papal crozier that predated John Paul II, the papal garb, the papal stole that he wore when he came out on the balcony, the papal slippers. And again, these things are signs, but they're signs that really are there to give that sense of respect for the office of the person. And I have to give credit. I do think Benedict restored that. We see I don't know who, I don't recognize that bishop there, but obviously there's a bishop even there in the crowd. There's a priest, another bishop there. Prelates, yes, so a real mixed group. Getting some music again from the those in the square who have come. Again, all the signs they're getting ready for the announcement. The Swiss Guard are in place. They're really getting the crowd ready. Beautiful scene there. But again, I think we could use that. Pope Francis really did lower the esteem of the papacy, I think, of not even referring to himself as Pope, but just this sort of Bishop of Rome title, or just calling himself Francis. He brought back that John Paul II crozier with this very, again, in my opinion, distorted crucifix on the top. That Benedict had sort of put into a museum, into mothballs. But we'll see. We'll see what kind of a person this will bring. Again, we think. I agree with Mary. I think, given the speed, it's likely to be a fairly well-known name, but we obviously could be wrong. It could be a dark horse. There are many unknown cardinals in there, many that have just been appointed. As we listen for more excitement, they keep going to the loggia there, the little balcony. And again, I remember the last two elections, 2005. We were actually living in Europe, watched it live. We're living in London when Joseph Cardinal Ratzinger was announced as Benedict XVI, and then Pope Francis again in 2013, Jorge Bergoglio. It is earlier in the day. Well, it's lighter than when Pope Francis were elected, more like Benedict. Pope Francis was elected in the evening, but it was March, if you'll remember, so the sun was setting earlier. By the time Jorge Bergoglio came out on the balcony, it was already dark. Here we really have a bright sun. We're in early May, 2 months later. And a little bit earlier than Benedict, it was about this kind of lighting. Do you remember what Benedict said when he came out on the balcony? His first words, he said, "Pray for me that I do not flee for fear of the wolves." Remember that refers to the gospel we read this past Sunday, the Bon Pastor, good pastor, where our Lord says, "I am the good pastor. I am not a hireling who flees at the sight of the wolves." And it was interesting that Benedict chooses that. I think almost a foreshadowing of what would happen, because from some appearances, that's exactly what he did. He fled for fear of the wolves. He resigned the office, citing health concerns, but then he went on to live for almost 10 years, again, with declining health, but certainly, well, to compare to an American example, looked in better health than the former president of the United States, right, at least mentally. Um, but it is interesting that he said that, and now he must have had some sense that there were wolves in the church. He talked about that many times as Cardinal Ratzinger and as Pope, that there was corruption, there was sin in the church. We know shortly before his resignation, he received um, a no, that's not Mary. He received a report on sort of an infiltration of those with a sort of pro-homosexual agenda in there. Oh, we're getting a close-up of the balcony, perhaps something. No, and he talked about the church at certain points. Benedict, Cardinal Ratzinger, maybe needing to be a smaller church, become a smaller church but a stronger church. I think he did have the sense that there were wolves in the church, and he was afraid, right, that he would give in to that. He and appear again, for all appearances, he did. His explanation of not being healthy enough to discharge the duties of his office was, I think, maybe plausible. Although if you watch the scene when he abdicates or announces his abdication, I mean, he seems in relatively good health. And as I said, he doesn't die. He doesn't develop an illness like Parkinson's or apparently of dementia. He seemed to be mentally fit. So really begs the question, why? Obviously, there are many, if you search the internet, conspiracy or other theories that may or may not be true about external pressure from banks, about the Vatican Bank being shut down, ATMs not working. And again, there never really was an investigation. Francis's Vatican never determined to kind of investigate it. Was there anything going on or untoward? And not even to the extent that it would invalidate his abdication. Right? There's some who've argued that, but even if it didn't, even if he freely abdicated, if there was pressure or influences on that, it would be important to know. And you would think if you were the next pope, you'd want to know what they are and try to maybe root out that pressure. But not really. I mean, it's odd. One of the big things that got a lot of news, just as we recap as we wait here, in the Pope Francis pontificate, was the group of 9 cardinals who were supposed to reform the Vatican, set it up, investigate, clean up the corruption, and it was really an effort that sort of fizzled out. They didn't do a lot. There was some scandal. Cardinal Pell having to resign, apparently, being charged and then found not guilty on appeal of charges, which seemed perhaps to arise coincidentally when he was raising some issues about corruption in the Vatican. Beautiful aerial view there, thanks to Vatican media. But again, never really have no real major, revision. And then when he finally comes out with it, it's almost like a name shuffle. All right, he changed the congregations to dicasteries. He reshuffled a few. He combined a few, but not really the kind of deep structural reform if you're dealing with financial and other corruption. Again, a bit of a letdown on a natural level if you're trying to sort of clean up a curia that, even by Francis' own admission, he thought had become corrupt. When the final document came years and years into his papacy, not very much really changed. Rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic, you might say, but it really was a lot of just name changes, essentially. Just checking in with Murray, sending him another text. No response from him, but we will certainly get him on. We'll be probably talking to him a lot today to get his reactions when he gets to a more stable position there. There we get a view of the crowd stretching out of St. Peter's. There we have a view of the river Tiber, the river on which the Eternal City was founded. founded in the history of Rome by Romulus, who, according to Roman legend, was the descendant of Aeneas, a Trojan, who, following the destruction of uh, Troy by the Greeks, and we see some national flags. I recognize the Brazilian among them. Quite a few Brazilian flags there. Destroyed Troy. Aeneas flees Troy and through adventures lands in Italy, and then settles in Latium, and eventually his descendant Romulus and Remus, two twins, found the city of Rome. Romulus takes over and defeats his brother in combat, and then that's how we get the city known as Rome. I guess it would be called Rheims if his brother Remus had prevailed. But that Tiber River, which plays such an important part in the history of Rome, and it's interesting. The Gospels say that in the fullness of time, God brought about the incarnation. God brought the redemption through his son. And in that fullness of time is really when the world was the place he wanted, when everything was in place for his mission. And we're told in the Gospels of the Nativity, when the whole world was at peace, when Augustus Caesar was emperor, essentially of the known world. Most of the known world was Roman emperor. And because of that, really, God wanted, we know, in his providence, Christ to be born and the church to arise in a Roman world, in a Roman Empire. What did the Roman Empire provide to the fledgling church? A natural vehicle for the spreading of Christ's message. The Romans were great organizers, maybe not the greatest philosophers compared to the Greeks in terms of originality, but they were great builders. They built roads that interconnected the empire. Their language created a lingua latina, lingua franca, we would say, so that the empire could communicate. And a system of laws, a system of governmental structures, so that the church, when she was born, could adopt herself into that Roman structure and reach the known world more easily. Many of the structural elements of the church that we know of today are really surviving remnants of the Roman Empire. The Roman Empire is divided into provinces, and we get metropolitan provinces, patriarchates of the church, subdivided into dioceses. And again, we recognize the term diocese today because that's how the church is divided. That is borrowed from the Roman Empire. The practice of meeting in synods, councils, is also something brought over from the Roman Empire. Even the way the church made law before the present code of canon law was a method of Roman lawmaking, a rescript. So if there were legal questions that would arise in the empire, you could write to the emperor and ask the emperor for a rescript, a sort of ruling on the Roman law. The Roman pontiffs adopt this same practice, and that's how much of early Roman law, canon law, before its codification in the 20th century, is through these papal rescripts, or later term decretals. So there really is this intense, I would say, metaphysical almost connection between the Catholic Church and Rome, obviously brought about by the first pope. There we see him, St. Peter, in his statue on the facade of St. Peter, holding the keys to the kingdom of heaven, given to him by our Lord in Caesarea Philippi. And interestingly, where is Peter made head of the church? In a named city, Caesarea Philippi, right? That connection almost there. He is the Roman equivalent, the equivalent of the Roman Empire in the church. Then when the Roman Empire in the West fell, the last Roman emperor, Romulus, falls in 474 to the barbarian invaders. A power vacuum is really created, and these roles of Pope and Roman Empire in the West, at least, and empire obviously remains in Constantinople, but become merged in the person of the Pope. In that vacuum in the secular world, there really is a need for that leader, the Pope as the spiritual leader of the church, assumes that role for the Western Empire. Again, they were not burdened in the 5th century by our modern notions of separation of church and state and liberalism, and so they, were not troubled by the Pope exercising a temporal authority because he was their father. And what does a father do? He does not leave his children abandoned. And therefore, this is when the institution we know in the modern world of the papal states comes about. The Pope was, in addition to the supreme authority spiritually within the church, the temporal authority of great parts of the old Roman Empire, of the Italian part of that, which eventually in the 19th century become known as the papal states. Now, why were they so important? Pius IX tells us because he said the Pope cannot be a citizen of any country, right? He understood very practically, if he is subject to a potentate or power or prince of another country, then that country, wherever the Pope lives, will be able to control the papacy and thereby the church. Right? If he's a subject of the German Kaiser or the French king, he does not have the freedom and independence, because although the modern idea of separation of church and state is flawed, we do understand that the church and state are distinct, and the church needs a certain libertas ecclesiae, as the church would talk about, a freedom of the church from the secular power to speak the truth and to bring the sacraments and to not be hindered. And he understood that therefore the Pope needed a country of his own where he was a temporal ruler, so he was not beholden to any material powers, temporal powers. Unfortunately, the liberal forces stirred up by Freemasonry wanted to subject the Pope to that, to control the church. And so they led revolutions in the 19th century. Those Swiss guards, who we've seen a few times, bravely fought to defend the Pope during those wars. And as a result of them, all of the papal states were lost. And the Pope became, in the words of Pius IX, a prisoner of the Vatican. He couldn't go out. He was a man without a country. And was really just locked in the Vatican in a legal limbo. And for many decades, then popes were not seen outside of the Vatican buildings, which were considered part of Italy, which had all of his temporal power had been taken away. And this, was dangerous for the papacy. If you're going to, denounce temporal leaders for their errors, their sins, you want to have an army, right, to protect you. Obviously, you have an army of angels, but other temporal as well. Finally, this was resolved in 1929. Ironically, when the leader El Duce, the Benito Mussolini, signs a treaty with the Pope, establishing the current legal status of the Vatican. This is signed in the Lateran Palace, so it's known as the Lateran Treaty. And according to this treaty, the Pope was given a territory of his own, the very tiny, the smallest state, I think, in geographic space of the Vatican. It becomes a city-state of its own, with the Pope as the head of the city-state of the Vatican. And again, it's in a sense, I would say now, almost symbolic of that freedom of the Pope. The Vatican is 0.17 square mile, the Vatican City State, and it is considered the smallest, as I said, country in the world. Is this really a protection against those powers? Well, it's better than nothing, right? And at least the country within whose territory this separate sovereign nation resides has a treaty with it to respect its independence. Now, what would happen if the Vatican were invaded? Obviously, the Swiss guards, notwithstanding, that they may all be brave men, what are they going to do against a modern army to protect the Pope? But it does create at least the symbolic sense of the independence of the Pope. And we don't want to underrate that. I mean, we do know from historical sources that Adolf Hitler and the German High Command had plans to invade the Vatican. They believed Pope Pius XII was undermining their rule, even though he was quite circumspect in later years about what he said in the midst of the war, and tried to play the role of a peacemaker. the Germans saw him as undermining their plans, and drew up plans to invade the Vatican and take him prisoner, as Napoleon had done 150 or so years, around roughly 100 years earlier, 130 maybe. But they never did it. Why? Not because the Vatican had a massive army that the Blitzkrieg couldn't roll through, but because of that they might actually do more harm than good, because of the spiritual and moral authority of the papacy, that could undermine the German rule, even within Germany itself, which is home to was at the time large numbers of Catholics, particularly in Bavaria and southern Germany. So that moral and spiritual authority of the Pope is something that even an atheist regime like the Nazis would um, note. Uh, and it's something that I think unfortunately has been squandered by the post-conciliar popes, right? They have almost just given up that moral authority. And yes, John Paul II did defend the natural law, did speak out on certain issues, but there has been a bit of a fear, I think, to challenge the world. We saw that, I think, sadly, in the Pope Francis pontificate, wanting to be accepted by the powers and potentates of this world. They're no longer kings and princes; they're men in business suits who meet in Davos, but wanting to be accepted into their club, and therefore an uncritical approach to the COVID situation, to various other measures, to the environmental agenda, that I think we saw, that I think really lowered the prestige of the papacy, when you just look like you're trying to sort of copy what the latest liberal political agenda is. So again, we pray that whoever this pope is, that maybe he'll reverse that trend and really, again, establish that moral voice of the church. And it did exist. I mean, just to take our example in the United States, before the council, the Catholic League had great power over even liberal Hollywood. And they would review films, particularly films that involved Catholic images or scenes. And if they said, can't do this, you can't show this, even Hollywood would respect that, because they knew Catholics spoke una voce, with one voice. And if the Catholic League organized, which was a group organized by the Catholic bishops, said to Catholics, don't go to this movie, they wouldn't go to the movie. And therefore, Hollywood listened to them and did make alterations to films. Now, does that mean all films are perfect? No, obviously there were some agendas in Hollywood, but it does mean that there was respect for the Catholic um, church, because she spoke una voce, with that one voice. And again, I think that is one of the major things that happened since Vatican II. The church no longer speaks una voce. We see that in the liturgy, obviously. She doesn't speak una voce in the liturgy. She speaks in now, I don't know how many 5,000 languages, perhaps. Then, but even more than that, when it comes to doctrine, even in a different language, we have the bishops in Germany saying that they're going to bless same-sex unions, and then those in Africa saying that's not consistent with Catholic doctrine, and that unity of faith has really been shaken in this post-conciliar period. And I do think Francis epitomized that, and that may be why we've seen some of the cardinals saying they wanted unity, that maybe they haven't had a recognition of substance, that there was something rotten in the state of the church at Vatican II, but that at least its extreme conclusions brought by Francis are need to be reversed, and we need to have some unity. I mean, I think there was some danger, and we've commented on this. The vision for the church of synodality was to turn it into an Anglican communion, right? We're sort of a united world council of churches where, the German church, the American church, the African church, they have all their opinions, and we can all just sort of agree that we share the name Catholic. But what that means changes as you board a plane in Africa and get off in Germany. Again, beautiful scenes, a lot of excitement there, beautiful flags, that wonderful, beautiful flags being held up by people from around the world, really showing the universality of the Catholic Church. Catholic means obviously universal. To see all these different nations represented by the crowd there in St. Peter's. Just checking my phone, see if there's any updates I can read. from him. And again, maybe we shouldn't be surprised. We got on because we were sure the announcement was going to come any minute, because that smoke is probably well over an hour now, I think. But again, yet another delay. What does it mean? Typically, they wouldn't let up the smoke until the person accepts. According to church law, that is the moment they become the pope. So in the secular world, with an hereditary monarch, the moment of the death of the king marks the moment of the beginning of the next king's reign. The king is dead, long live the king. The papacy, unlike a hereditary monarch, is not hereditary, obviously. It is elected. And that means there is an interregnum. And so the moment the papacy ends is when the pope is declared dead, officially declared dead, and then it begins upon the granting of the consent of the pope to his election. So that must have occurred. What other things could be delaying this? The pope wanting some time, perhaps, to prepare himself. Maybe if he was a surprise election, he wasn't prepared. Uh, Maybe it's as mundanely as a cassock that doesn't fit him. They've had this in the past. They usually have a collection of some white cassocks, different sizes and shapes, just in case. They had, I think, an issue with John the 23rd, I remember reading, because he was quite rotund, as they might say in Italy. But they usually have something that will work. So, I mean, that's a possibility. But I would sense, I do think we have another prelate there in the square. I sense that it does seem a little long. The crowd's looking a little anxious. I'm not sure what to make of this delay, but there's some of my speculations. Is all I can give you. What may be going on. This certainly doesn't seem the same as 1958. You may have read about 1958. There was a white smoke that was reported as seen from the Vatican. People started assembling, but then they said it was a mistake. It wasn't actually white smoke. It was misread, and there was no pope. And again, there's been a lot of speculation from that there was somebody elected who was talked out of it, who changed their mind. We don't know. But there, the differences were here they really do seem to be preparing, bringing out the Swiss Guard, bringing out the bands. So I don't think that that's the case, that there's some misfire or somebody has turned it down. I think they would not have triggered these preparations in the square without being pretty sure a pope's name was going to be announced soon. So, but again, maybe we'll get an explanation, maybe not later on of this somewhat of delay. It's interesting. The crowd has calmed down a bit. They were about stirring them up with the music, the pomp, really giving the sense we were about to see someone on the balcony, and then nothing. And now we're just listening to, again, a quiet crowd there. Lost contact with Murray, our man in Rome. I'm sorry, I'm getting a lot of texts from people asking me what's going on. I was just checking to make sure there are any of him. He may get some information before we can see here. No twitching of the curtains that would sense, or opening of the doors a little more to sense someone's coming out to do the announcement there. But we'll see. This could, the election of popes is really a great thing, right? It will set a tone for the church for some number of years, and there are precedents of where somebody is elected pope and who has somewhat of a change. Again, we as Catholics must believe that that is possible, since we believe in grace. Grace builds on nature, but it can affect nature. And that is, something possible. An example that is given is from the 19th century, and that is Pope Pius IX. And he was known, and again, I think these terms are a little difficult given our time, but he was considered to be a more liberal leaning. Again, now in our terms, he wouldn't be considered probably liberal even then, but by the time, a more liberal leaning pope. But he really, shortly after he became pope, said, and indicated his mind was changed. He completely changed his view of liberalism. I think rather than saying he was a liberal, my view studying him is he was softer on liberalism. Didn't see it as much of a danger as a threat as others did. But I don't think he was a quote liberal. But he really became one of the most anti-liberal popes of the 19th century. And so really, a transition like that is possible. So we are again waiting for the Pope, the person, the cardinal, or again, technically it doesn't have to be a cardinal, but the person chosen by the College of Cardinals to come out on the balcony. It is expected to be, I think, Cardinal Dominic Momberti is who is likely to be expected to come out on the balcony. He will utter the phrase in Latin, if they follow tradition, Habemus Papam. We have a pope, right, from this balcony of St. Peter's. That is what is we expect. Again, we'll have to see who actually comes out, and we will then go on in Latin to say the name of the cardinal who will who has become the next pope, and then his chosen papal name. The white smoke is simply the signal to let them out of the Sistine. Again, when they used to be locked in there, really pretty more than symbolically, to let them out is the signal. But then the official proclamation comes later from this loggia of the basilica. He will then read the Christian, the baptismal name in Latin, and then reveal that it has been chosen. That is again what would be expected by tradition. We're waiting for that to occur. We're waiting to see Cardinal appear there. If you've just joined us, Mary texted me as soon as the white smoke was up. I actually saw it on my phone before any of the news, lamestream, media announced it. And the Pope had been elected. 133 cardinal electors participated. There were some rumors of some of them leaving, but at 133, 89 of them would have to have voted in favor of this candidate to have a 2/3 majority from that. There were some interesting reports. Mary talked about them last night. Actually, it was just last night about them, and that there were some that were sort of giving up, walking out. We don't really know if that is the case, but if there's 133 cardinal electors, we have some excitement. Oh, we see the curtains. Here we go. This looks like our moment. So we'll just be quiet and listen.
Annuncio vobis
I announced to you
gaudium magnum.
great joy, tidings of great joy.
Habemus Papam.
We have a pope.
Eminentissimum.
His Eminence.
Ac reverendissimum Dominum. Dominum Robertum Franciscum. Sancte Romane Ecclesiae Cardinalem Prevost.
Robert Francis.
Qui sibi nomen imposuit
Who chose the name?
Leonem decimum quartum.
Leo the 14th. The new pope is Leo the 14th. So there we have, you've heard it there. And I believe he means Cardinal Sarah. Robert Francis is is the name of Cardinal Sarah, uh, who is, I didn't catch the name of his titular church in Rome, which would also identify him. There we see the cardinals gathered there. I believe, we will see if I'm right. I think it was Cardinal Sarah. I think that's Cardinal Zen. I think that's Cardinal Zen I saw on the balcony. They're now putting the papal coat of arms up, which means the Pope will appear. Leo the 14th, the first Leo chosen since the great Pope Leo the 13th, the light that shined, that great Leo the 13th. Social encyclicals. That name is significant. Leo the 14th. It's not a Pius the 13th, but I think a Leo the 14th is a really significant name. That is certainly a more traditional name. And if I am correct that we heard Robert Francis Sarah, then that is certainly boding well for more conservative, liturgical, and certainly moral. We're now waiting for the Pope to appear. We'll see. As they begin to prepare. And I think watching for how he emerges, how he's dressed, will certainly be significant. We'll send a message. Will certainly, again, Pope Francis refusing. If you may remember when he came out on the balcony, they presented him the papal stole, which he refused. Really was a sign of his pontificate, refusing those. Pope Benedict, again, coming with a more traditional attire, certainly. Wow. So there we have it. Again, I'm just trying to see if anyone else heard this. I'm not seeing anybody else reporting it or confirming it at this point. Maybe any of you who are in the live stream, what are you seeing? Yeah, Robert. Oh no, Prevost, very likely. You're right. Prevost. Oh, okay, that's possible. Is also a Robert. Let's check that out. Maybe it was wishful thinking on my part. Robert Francis Prevost, Order of St. Augustine, born 1955. American Catholic prelate, yes. Prefect of the dicastery for bishops. So again, that's a possibility. That is a possibility as well. He is a Robert Francis. Trying to see if anybody else has any other interpretations. Yeah, it's looking like, what are people reporting? Let's see. No, no one there. Nope, they're just saying Lombardi will be doing it. Just seeing what I can find out. It's interesting. Not a lot of people saying anything. They're still just reporting will be announced. Let me pull a live update from someone else. Yeah, nobody else is really updating. on it. Interesting. Again, maybe I'm trying to talk and look at the same time, and nobody else in the comments has seen anything. We've heard Robert Francis, again, speculating. He said Prevost. Okay, somebody did hear Prevost. EWTN says Leo. Yeah, Trads have terrible. Cardinal Robert Prevost. Okay, I just couldn't hear according to EWTN. So, Cardinal Robert Prevost. I admit I couldn't hear it very clearly. Sorry about somebody who's complaining about our Latin. I just couldn't hear it. All I could hear was the Robert Francis. I guess my hopes got up. So, what do we know about Cardinal Robert Prevost, born Robert Prevost, now Leo the 14th? He was, as I said, the bishop, the prefect for the dicastery of bishops, president of the Pontifical Commission for Latin America under Francis. He was previously the Archbishop of Peru, head of the Augustinian religious order. So he was made a cardinal by Francis. And another Latin American, again, interesting than another Latin American. And also another religious, being a Augustinian this time. See what other information we can get on him. Now, certainly that means he's been in charge of appointing bishops. Not a good sign, given a lot of the bishops that we know have been appointed under Pope Francis. And again, thank you to those who were checking that. That's exactly the name he said. I clearly heard the Robert Francis, but and I knew that was the middle name of Sarah. That's why I think I was listening for it. But perhaps, unfortunately, it was not Cardinal Sarah. It does seem to be confirmed now, finally, that it is Robert Francis Provost. And it is interesting coming now from the New World, another pope from the New World. He was appointed just recently in 2023, though, as prefect of the dicastery for bishops. And he has been mentioned, I think, by some people as the possible name, possible papal. And he again chose the name Leo the 14th, which I do take as a really interesting sign. Leo the 14th is seen as the head of Catholic social teaching. And so, maybe and that may be what he wants to signal by it. But he certainly, for traditionalists, is a pope we look to for great anti-liberal encyclicals, Libertas, De Eternum, Immortali Dei, certainly would be ones that would come to our mind. Now, does Leo the 14th think of those same things? We don't know. I'm not sure. We'll have to, I think time will tell. What he thinks about the Latin Mass. Is it possible that he would simply revoke Traditionis Custodes? Would be, something to know. And we'll want to be watching in these early days. Definitely now I'm seeing mainstream media confirming that they have heard it was Cardinal Prevost. There we see the balcony. And yes, there it is. It is Cardinal Prevost. I recognize him. Well, no longer Cardinal Prevost, Pope Leo the 14th. He is wearing the traditional papal garb. I will just comment on that. He is wearing what we saw Benedict the 16th wear, the papal stole, the manchetta. Yeah, the papal stole he does have on. Seeing history being made, Pope Leo the 14th standing from his basilica, St. Peter's, from his church. I believe I read he's about 69, so not too old, not that old. Could be, a 10 to 15-year pontificate, certainly possible. Let's see if we're going to hear him speak, and he will traditionally give a blessing. Our first image is here of the Supreme Pontiff of the Roman Catholic Church. Again, dressed more than Francis in a more traditional papal attire. Again, externals are not everything, but they are signals. And these men know that certain signals are sent. I think Pope Francis intended to send a signal. He would be non-traditional by his choice. You remember also Francis refused the traditional blessing. He asked for the crowd to bless him. Some very, unconventional things. So we'll wait to see if the new Leo XIV will follow the ritual and just give a traditional blessing. Viva the Pope, long live the Pope. They're chanting Viva Papam. Yeah, looking at your comments, he is, by the way, yes, it is true. He is an American, even though he has been had things in Latin America. He is a United States American by birth. So the first American by birth.
La pace sia con tutti voi.
My Italian's not great. Peace be with you, I think he said.
Fratelli, sorelle carissimi.
My brothers, dear brothers.
Questo è il primo saluto del Cristo risorto, il buon pastore che ha dato la vita per il gregge di Dio. Anch'io vorrei che questo saluto di pace entrasse nel vostro cuore, raggiungesse le vostre famiglie, a tutte le persone, ovunque siano, a tutti i popoli, a tutta la terra. La pace sia con voi.
Again, it's paraphrasing, really speaking a message of peace to everyone, to the world. Our Lord being the Prince of Peace. So again, not much I think we can take from that. I can't do a running word-by-word translation. My Italian's not strong enough, but I definitely get the sense of it.
Questa è la pace di Cristo risorto, una pace disarmata e una pace disarmante, umile e perseverante. Proviene da Dio, Dio che ci ama a tutti incondizionalmente. Ancora conserviamo nei nostri orecchi quella voce debole ma sempre coraggiosa di Papa Francesco che benediva Roma.
Again, beginning that bit describing the peace of Christ, he certainly mentioned, so at least he mentioned our Lord's name. That's wonderful. The peace of Christ, the qualities of the peace of Christ. A reference
Il
here.
Papa che benediva Roma dava la sua benedizione al mondo intero, quella mattina del giorno di Pasqua. Consentitemi di dar seguito a quella stessa benedizione. Dio ci vuole bene, Dio vi ama tutti e il male non prevarrà. Siamo tutti nelle mani di Dio. Pertanto, senza paura, uniti, mano nella mano con Dio e tra di noi, andiamo avanti. Siamo discepoli di Cristo. Cristo ci precede. Il mondo ha bisogno della sua luce. L'umanità necessita di Lui come il ponte per essere raggiunta da Dio e dal suo amore. Aiutateci anche voi, poi gli uni gli altri, a costruire i ponti con il dialogo, con l'incontro, unendoci tutti per essere un solo popolo, sempre in pace. Grazie a Papa Francesco.
Again, secondly, thanks Pope Francis. Again, a message of peace. Clearly, these references to Pope Francis, again, typical for popes, though, to say they'll
Voglio
follow their.
ringraziare anche tutti i confratelli cardinali che hanno scelto me per essere successore di Pietro e camminare insieme a voi come Chiesa unita, cercando sempre la pace, la giustizia, cercando sempre lavorare come uomini e donne fedeli a Gesù Cristo, senza paura, per proclamare il Vangelo, per essere missionari.
Again, talking about peace and justice, necessary conditions to proclaim the gospel, to preach. Again, maybe an emphasis on the social teaching.
Un figlio di Sant'Agostino,
A son of St. Augustine.
agostiniano,
He's an Augustinian.
che ha detto: con voi sono cristiano e per voi vescovo. In questo senso possiamo tutti camminare insieme verso quella patria la quale Dio ci ha preparato. Alla Chiesa di Roma un saluto speciale. Dobbiamo cercare insieme come essere una Chiesa missionaria, una Chiesa che costruisce i ponti, il dialogo, sempre aperta a ricevere, come questa piazza con le braccia aperte, a tutti coloro che hanno bisogno della nostra carità, la nostra presenza, il dialogo, l'amore. Y se me permiten también una palabra, un saludo.
Oh, he's speaking in Spanish now. He said, if you'll permit me also to speak a few words in Spanish.
A todos aquellos, y en modo particular a mi querida diócesis de Chiclayo en el Perú.
Especially speaking to people from Peru. Again, although an American, he served in Peru.
Donde un pueblo fiel ha acompañado a su obispo, ha compartido su fe y ha dado tanto para seguir siendo iglesia fiel de Jesucristo. A tutti voi, fratelli e sorelle di Roma, d'Italia, di tutto il mondo, vogliamo essere una Chiesa sinodale, una Chiesa che cammina, una Chiesa che cerca sempre la pace, cerca sempre la carità, cerca sempre di essere vicino specialmente a coloro che soffrono.
Again, I'm sensing that theme of unity coming through, right? Speaking again of the unity of Catholics.
Oggi, il giorno della supplica alla Madonna di Pompei.
Our Lady of Pompeii.
Nostra Madre Maria vuole sempre camminare con noi, stare vicino, aiutarci con la sua intercessione e il suo amore. Allora vorrei pregare insieme a voi. Preghiamo insieme per questa nuova missione, però per tutta la Chiesa, per la pace nel mondo, e chiediamo questa grazia speciale di Maria, nostra Madre. Ave Maria, piena di grazia, il Signore è con te.
Saying
tu
the Hail
sei
Mary,
benedetta
obviously.
fra le donne, e benedetto è il frutto del tuo seno, Gesù. Santa Maria, Madre di Dio, prega per noi peccatori, adesso e nell'ora della nostra morte. Amen.
again, concluding with a reference to Our Lady. I think it's particularly under the title Our Lady of Pompeii. And then, for her to bless and bring this message of peace. So again, maybe by peace he's referring to the world, but maybe peace within the church, perhaps, is his
Il
message.
Santo Padre Leone, a tutti i fedeli presenti e a quelli che ricevono la sua benedizione a mezzo della radio, della televisione e delle altre tecnologie di comunicazione, concede l'indulgenza plenaria nella forma stabilita dalla Chiesa.
So
Preghiamo Dio Onnipotente perché conservi a lungo il Papa a guida della Chiesa e conceda pace e unità alla Chiesa in tutto il mondo.
announcing that Leo the 14th will be giving his blessing to the whole world. Cardinals removing their hats there. He is going to use the papal ritual, unlike Francis, who shooed it away.
Sancti Apostoli Petrus et Paulus, de quorum potestate et auctoritate confidimus, ipsi intercedat pro nobis ad Dominum. Amen. Precibus et meritis Beate Mariae semper Virginis, Beati Michaelis Arcangeli, Beati Ioannis Baptiste, et Sanctorum Apostolorum Petri et Pauli et omnium sanctorum, misereatur vestri omnipotens Deus, et dimissis omnibus peccatis vestris, perducat vos Iesus Christus ad vitam aeternam.
Amen.
Indulgentiam, absolutionem, et remissionem omnium peccatorum vestrorum, spatium vere et fructuose penitentiae, cor semper penitens, et emendationem vitae, gratiam et consolationem Sancti Spiritus, et finalem perseverantiam in bonis operibus tribuat vobis omnipotens et misericors Dominus. Amen. Et benedictio Dei omnipotentis, Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti descendat super vos et maniat semper.
Those words, obviously familiar to traditionalists. We heard a forgiveness, indulgentiam, the invocation of the saints, and then the triple blessing there. Again, interesting. Again, remember, very different from Pope Francis, who eschewed the papal ritual and just sort of did his own blessing and asked the people to bless him, rather than the other way around. So again, a little early days, early moments, but a pope who at least is appearing to act like a pope, more like a pope, shall I say. But time certainly will tell. Well, there you have it. We have seen the new Pope, Leo the 14th, for the first time. Again, general reaction to what he said. We'll try to get the text of it and give a more detailed response soon, but spoke much about peace, about universality, invoked the Blessed Virgin Mary. And again, he spoke in both Italian and in Spanish. Although an American, he seems to have a facility for languages. He spoke in Italian and Spanish. He served in Peru, in South America, getting the view of the scenes here in St. Peter's. Big questions that will emerge. Where will he be on the Latin Mass? Will he revoke Traditionis Custodes? Will he revert to the Benedictine liturgical settlement that we saw? Where will he stand on the moral issues? Will he bring unity and peace by clarifying much that has been made ambiguous in the past 12 years of the Francis pontificate? Time will tell, and we will be here as always at Catholic Family News to bring you that analysis. And it was wonderful to share this time with you. What I'll tell you we'll do is, as soon as we can get Mary back, maybe he'll go to his apartment, we'll go back live again and give you an update on what he saw and heard during this experience. and what his impressions are. So given I can't seem to raise him, I think we will leave St. Peter's at this point, but do keep set up with our channel. Do keep subscribed, because as things come forward, as we have more information, give you more commentary, we will be back to join you then. Leo the 14th, elected Pope. Thank you for your support, and may God bless you. May God bless his church, and we will see you soon.